the administration and the left would in some way, shape, or form decide that they've got to scream racism on this particular issue. What really troubles me, Hakeem, is that people want to be ignorant of the facts. And as you said and pointed out, these people, the Black Lives Matters crowd and Antifa, they were marching through a black neighborhood in Kenosha, Wisconsin, burning down black businesses. And the response from Antifa and from a lot of the Black Lives Matters crowd was that, well, they've got insurance. It's not really violence. That's what they said. And it's just been bizarre. The statements have been bizarre. The statements from the prosecutor have been bizarre. I mean, just listen to this from the prosecutor.
Convince you that Joseph Rosenbaum was going to take that gun and use it on the defendant because they know you can't claim self-defense against an unarmed man like this. You lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun, when you're the one creating the danger, when you're the one provoking other people.
It's not a statement of law, nor is it a statement of fact. Now, I will tell you guys again, I was a lawyer and I hated criminal law. Oh my gosh, did I hate, so I liked criminal procedure. I just did not like criminal. So criminal law, your first year in law school, criminal law is very theoretical. And a lot of it in even American law is based on English common law. My gosh, did I hate it. The professor was fine. I hated criminal law. I didn't want to be a criminal lawyer. At first I wanted to be a prosecutor, and then I got a job as a law clerk in a private law firm, and I was like, I think I'd rather do this. Didn't like criminal law. But even though I didn't like it, it was my worst grade in law school. I got a C. I do know criminal law because I had to practice criminal law, unfortunately. I was required to practice it. I will tell you, you do not give up your right to self-defense. You bring a gun and people start attacking you, you do have the right to defend yourself. You may not like it. You may think there shouldn't be a case, but generally you do. For the prosecutor to say, if you have a gun, you don't have the right to self-defense is nonsense. The prosecutor also argued that Kyle Rittenhouse should have gotten in a fist fight. Now, you do need to know that the other people, they had not just guns, but they had a skateboard. They were bashing Kyle Rittenhouse's head in with a skateboard before he shot the guy. You should also know Kyle Rittenhouse had better gun skills than the prosecutor. There are multiple videos of Kyle Rittenhouse when he's out on the street that night showing his hand off the trigger, his finger off the trigger, and the gun pointed down. The prosecutor wanted to show the jury the gun and wound up pointing the AR-15 at the crowd in the courtroom with his finger on the trigger. The judge had to admonish him. I just find the whole thing to be insane. I mean, really, I genuinely find the whole thing to be crazy that we are at this point. And, of course, Joe Biden called Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist. It turns out to be nothing far from the truth. People on the left want to believe it. And Peter Doocy got into it with Jen Psaki at the White House over this.
Just something tied to an ongoing court case. Why did President Biden suggest that Kyle Rittenhouse on trial in Kenosha is a white supremacist?
So, Peter, what I'm not going to speak to right now is anything about an ongoing trial, nor the president's past comments. What I can reiterate for you is the president's view that we shouldn't have, broadly speaking, vigilantes patrolling our communities with assault weapons. We shouldn't have opportunists corrupting peaceful protests by rioting and burning down the communities they claim to represent anywhere in the country. As you know, closing arguments in this particular case, which I'm not speaking to, I'm just making broad comments about his own view. There's an ongoing trial. We're awaiting a verdict. Beyond that, I'm not going to speak to any individuals or this
But
case.
the president has spoken to it already, and his mom now, Kyle Rittenhouse's mom, came out saying that the president defamed her son, and that she claims that when the president suggested her son is a white supremacist, he was doing that to win votes. Is that what happened?
I just have nothing more to speak to an ongoing case where the closing arguments were just made. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so let me tell you what's going on here. They don't care. What they care about is Kyle Rittenhouse's mother used the word defame. Yeah, that's red flag, red flag, red flag. Could get sued, could get sued. They got to hit pause on discussing this because they're worried. Listen, how many of you knew Kyle Rittenhouse did not bring that gun across state lines? I did not know that. I learned that in the trial based on the media commentary, and I went back and looked. You would have never known that prior to the trial. How many of you knew Kyle Rittenhouse's father, grandmother, aunts, and uncles live in Kenosha, Wisconsin? I did not know that either. Learned that in the trial. There are a lot of facts that came out in the media that are new. There are a lot of facts that were relatively unknown, and now they're out there, and it puts the whole thing in a new light. And then there are all the videos that were out there, and you had the guy, and this was not helpful. To have that guy on the stand say that Kyle Rittenhouse did not shoot him until he had pointed his gun at Rittenhouse under oath in trial, and then to go on Good Morning America the next morning and say, well, no, he pointed at me first. That's not what you said under oath at trial, buddy. And by the way, we do have the videotape, and the videotape corroborates what you said in the trial, that you pointed first. You said it under oath. What you said on Good Morning America didn't. And in Good Morning America, kudos to them, they had to go after him on that one and made him look really opportunistic and bad. Listen, the jury's going to get this, and the jury has seen every bit of this trial, other than the stuff they're not supposed to see. We've got to see stuff the jury wasn't allowed to see for fairness and the law. And I would be surprised if they found him guilty, but juries are juries. They could do it. This could go either way with the jury. I'm not going to bet on what the jury comes up with, but I don't think, given what I've seen, that I would be voting for his guilt. I think he defended himself, and he had the right to do it, contrary to what the prosecutor said. And to Hakeem's point, he was protecting a lot of people in black neighborhoods whose businesses were being burned, and the prosecutor said yesterday in his closing statement that these people, they were the heroes here. They were the heroes. These Antifa people, they were stopping this shooter. No, they were the ones burning down businesses. Now, to the phones we go, 877-973-7425. Bob, you're going to be up first. Welcome. I'm great. How are you? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stand by. There's breaking news happening right now that I've got to get to, and this is Schadenfreude-alicious. Yes, it is. I want to read you a tweet. This is from Jen Psaki, March 14th of 2017. Watching Mick Mulvaney try to walk away from the Congressional Budget Office score and explain the budget outline is awkward and uncomfortable to watch. This is from Chuck Schumer, June 26, 2017. The Congressional Budget Office CBO report should be the end of the road for Trump care. The Senate GOP should read it like a giant stop sign, urging them to turn back from their health care plans. Well, as of 32 minutes ago, mid-level White House staffers are on a conference call with Democrats insisting the Congressional Budget Office does not have the experience to judge Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan. I kid you not. This is from Jackie Heinrich. She is a reporter for whom? Let me check her blue check mark. Fox News. Amid reports, the White House privately warned CBO scores would show the Build Back Better plan is not fully paid for. The White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates says, quote, there's wide agreement the CBO doesn't have experience analyzing revenue amounts gained from cracking down on wealthy tax cheats who are taking advantage of honest taxpayers. That's right. They are now attacking the Congressional Budget Office of the White House because they know by the way, the CBO hasn't even scored it yet. The score is not yet out, and the White House is already attacking the CBO over whatever score they're going to give it. Why? Because they know it's going to show that the Build Back Better plan is not paid for. In paid for terms, meaning they haven't raised enough taxes or cut enough other programs to pay for what they want to do with their massive government spending package. And here's a problem. If they can't get the math to work out, they can't get it through the Senate under reconciliation, and it could be filibustered by the Republicans. So they're going to have to try hard. Also, they're trying to put it before the House. The moderates have said it was dependent on the CBO score. This gives the moderates a way to kill it. Now, the progressives did not vote for the infrastructure plan. I think at this point it would be entirely appropriate based on the CBO score and the fact that the White House is signaling it's going to have a bad score from the CBO by attacking the CBO. It would be entirely appropriate for the moderates to say, well, you progressives didn't like the infrastructure plan. Well, screw you. We're not going to vote for this now. Good luck trying to get it through with Republican help. They're not going to be able to. I mean, Nancy Pelosi had to get the infrastructure plan through with congressional Republican support. 13 Republicans. Good luck, progressives, having attacked and just character assassinated Republicans. Good luck trying to find 13 of them to help you get it through if the moderates walk away. And by the way, this still, as structured, won't be able to go through the Senate with the reconciliation situation. So they're going to have to figure out a way to get it passed and convince Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema to support it. Good luck, progressives. This is a train wreck that we are watching real time. When we come back, I'll take time with your phone calls. Hello and welcome. It is Erick Erickson here, the Erick Erickson Show. Glad to have you with me. The phone number, if you want to be on the program, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. I need to go to the phones because we've had some folks waiting patiently, and they're on topics I want to talk about. Anyway, I have a brilliant call screener. He does great work, except when he cops an attitude. All right. Sorry, he's listening right now. Wes, you're going to be up first. Wes, welcome to the program. How are you? Sure. Right. No. It was not first held up with a federal judge. It was first held up because he issued a statement that he was going to do it. Then he issued the executive order, and then it took a while to formulate the regulation for implementation, and then a federal judge held it up. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Yeah, listen, a lot of companies are using, and by the way, this is one of the things that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals felt compelling in saying it wasn't an emergency, is Ron Klain, the White House chief of staff, retweeted someone who essentially was saying that the purpose of the mandate was not to force companies to do it, but to give companies cover to do their own mandate. And so a lot of companies are blaming the White House, even though legally, the Fifth Circuit has held it, enjoined them from being able to do anything. They're still trying to go ahead and the companies themselves can do it. So the White House now cannot punish the company, but the company can still punish you because you're an employee of the company. And I think companies, go ahead. Oh, I do too. I honestly think it's so the management level and the CEO level, the suits really do think that they are forcing their no good for nothing hick rube employees to save the world by getting vaccinated. They think they're doing a social good. What they're doing is they're fostering contempt for senior management. And they don't realize it. And we now know that the vaccine, after 6 months or so, you're going to have to get the booster. We're going to go through this all over again. And then over time, the booster may fade. I think that companies have handled this terribly. Delta is one of the few exceptions, I think, in handling this. Now, listen, you need to understand your CEO is probably lean socially to the left, and he's got to go be acceptable at the cocktail parties. And he himself thinks he is saving the world by forcing you to do this. So he doesn't really care about you. He cares about his social standing. That's part of the problem we have in the country now is these elite executives care way more about themselves than they do their employees. Ultimately, when it comes to the vaccine, though, let me talk about Delta for a minute. I'm not sure Delta went about it precisely the way they should have, but their alternative has been far better than their compatriots in the airline field. American and United and other airlines are forcing employees to be vaccinated or to get fired. Delta's not making you choose to get vaccinated or keep your job. What Delta is doing is they've said to their employees, listen, our healthcare costs for COVID are higher than they are for flu and other issues. So if you don't want to get vaccinated, that's fine, but we are going to raise your insurance premium. And again, it's because their costs related to COVID are so high. Given so many of the treatments of COVID are new, the medical options there are very expensive. The economies of scale haven't caught up yet. They are, but not yet. So we're going to raise your premium. but we're not going to fire you if you don't want it. And I think that's the way to go. Now, I've got a friend of mine, if you want the other end of it, if you want the absurd end of company governance, I have a friend who works for a company, and this company's policy is mandatory vaccines. If you don't get vaccinated, you're going to lose your job. And if you do get vaccinated, you still must wear a mask in the office at all times, and you still must twice a week have a nasal swab stuck up your nose. That's anti-science. Now, this is a tech company. You would think they would be pro-science, and that is completely anti-science. That is contrary to the guidance of everyone. This is risk management and liability prevention for scaredy cats. That's what it is. You know, and this is perfect here because I was going to talk about this anyway. And I want to tell you a few things that are on my mind on this. Don't look now, but there are reports of a new variant coming out of France, a country that has forced everyone to get vaccinated. I am now completely and fully bought into my theory that the press in the United States has PTSD from COVID. Most of the major press outlets are in New York City, where they had to deal with untold suffering over COVID and lots of death. And many of them know people who they worked with or family members who died of COVID. And they have PTSD, and they cannot cover it accurately or fairly or consider new data. They are stuck. And as a result, they want the rest of us to be stuck as well. And all of their coverage is fearful, and all of their coverage is condemnatory of those who do not comply. And Anthony Fauci is making matters worse. If I were the Democrats and I wanted to mitigate the damage that's coming in 2022, I would put Anthony Fauci in the witness protection program and never allow him to rear his face on television again, because he is making matters worse for him. But here's the thing. The Democrats don't appreciate it, and they don't understand it, because the Democrats overwhelmingly represent the coastal enclaves of the United States where COVID hit the hardest. So they too have PTSD. They are scared of the disease. They are fearful. This is not contrary to what some of you want to believe and what is prognosticated in certain segments of conservatism, a matter of them wanting to control your life. It has nothing to do with them wanting to control your life. It has to do with them being very scared of COVID themselves, being to the point of irrationality about COVID because they are scared of COVID, because of what happened in New York and LA, and also, and we will never, ever, 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 ever get to COVID zero. And so they are broken and do not know how to go forward other than to live by fear. It's not a coincidence that these people do not have any faith in anything other than science, and science has failed them. Now, the rest of us are going to be subjected to their failures and their fear and their doubt. And that's sad. It's very, very sad, but it's where we are as a country. Have intuitively, philosophically, fundamentally, they've bought into the idea that all of you are as scared of COVID as they are. And they're operating on that presumption. When I think at this point, most Americans are ready to get back to life. And they can't get back to life because the Democrats are too scared and intuitively, and you have science. And science fails you. You got nothing else to fall back on except fear. That's where the Democrats are in their policies. Now, let's go back to the phones. 877-973-7425. Dan, you're going to be up next. Welcome. Sure. Yep. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, as a matter of fact, I've been behind the scenes, and I've been open about this on radio. I've had conversations. Yes, I think that's where we're headed. I think it's where we're headed because the Republicans are getting the upper hand on this. Now, for those of you who don't really understand what Dan is talking about, look down the line. What's coming? What's coming is they've got to pass a short-term continuing resolution by December 6th, I think it is. And they also must pass a debt limit hike by December 6th. And the Republicans have been telling the Democrats, if you don't do these things with reconciliation, we're not going to do them. The Republicans will pass the short-term continuing resolution because it doesn't adjust spending at all. They will not raise the debt limit. The Democrats know they're going to have to do it themselves, and it's going to get filibustered with no Republican help. Here's what I suspect is going to happen, Dan. I think that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, when they get the CBO score, it's going to force so many cuts to the Build Back Better plan in the Senate that they're going to say, forget it. We're not going to vote for it anyway. And then they're going to be able to do a reconciliation measure that does some very minor things that Sinema and Manchin will support and raise the debt ceiling. Or in the alternative, a Republican senator tells me one of the things they're thinking of doing is they will kill, Sinema and Manchin will, the Build Back Better plan. And in exchange, enough Republicans in the Senate will vote to overcome the filibuster to raise the debt plan. In that case, they're not going to get the spending cuts I want. But McConnell, him, not to cut spending. You can say raise taxes, but if you taxed all the billionaires in this country, percent of the money of Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and all the other billionaires out there, you might be able to get 8 to 9 months of sell all their stock, and that would cause a stock market crash. But let's say you could sell it all, take all that money and fund the government. You wouldn't get a year. You important part. The Republicans want to force the cuts with the Republicans not in power. It badly.
News and in-depth analysis from
The phone number, if you want to be a part of the program, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Get back to your calls here in just a minute, but I've had the story green. The headline is the electric vehicle invasion is already here. The adoption curve is getting steeper than anyone thought. Start buying them en masse. The late Fiat Chrysler chief executive, Sergio Marchionne, went so far as to implore. Well, people are buying electric vehicles now, partly because the climate is simmering closer to a boil, and drivers around the world will buy about 5.6 million electric passenger vehicles this year, according to a new report. Demand, they say, in particular, demand is coming from Europe, simmering closer to a boil, and partly because the auto industry is finally making appealing mandates from the European Union. The European Union was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about the new F-150. They're going to make it here. It'll be able to haul a boat, haul your bass boat, or haul your trailer around in any sort of. However, people have less and less choice in which to buy cars. They're being forced to buy battery-powered vehicles now. Crisis because they're rushing into renewable energy. But when the sun goes down, the solar panel, the windmills do not produce energy. So we should battery technology to hold the day-produced energy to send it natural gas from Russia, which is making the Russians rich. We're trying to save money. Alabama, South Carolina, we're actually, it seems like our power public, an ice storm, unless the lines come down, that's a different matter. We pay less than. So we pay a balance. We're bringing online a giant solar farm. It's going to be the largest in the Southeast down the road from me. The Europeans are forcing people to buy battery-powered cars. So yes, or else they're going to buy the car that you forced them to buy. And that's essentially, and it's a punishment to the car manufacturers. They have remember, in the wintertime, those battery-powered cars don't hold as much charge. So there's going to be a lot. This country are going to demand that we do the same thing.